Hey, thanks for clicking. This is Buddy Chronicle. So, a man spends nearly 4 decades building a life with someone, and then one phone call at 2 in the morning tears all of it down. But that's not where the story ends. Stay to the end, and let's get into it. The porch light was on. That's the detail I keep coming back to. Not the words she said, not the way her hands trembled when she said them. The porch light. I had replaced that bulb 2 days earlier because Diane mentioned it flickered at night and made her nervous. I fixed it for her. I always fixed things for her. Frank, I think you should go see Claire this weekend. Drive up to Raleigh, spend a few days. She needs her father right now. My wife was standing by the back door, arms crossed, staring out at the yard like something out there held answers I couldn't see. She wouldn't turn around. Claire's fine, I said. I talked to her Tuesday. She said the divorce mediation is going smoothly. She's not fine. She's putting on a brave face. You know how she is. Just go, Frank. Please. I need some time alone anyway. The house has been suffocating me lately. Suffocating. That word landed harder than she probably meant it to. Or maybe she meant it exactly that hard. I'm what's suffocating you? She finally turned. Her eyes were red. Not crying red. Tired red. The kind of red that comes from nights spent staring at a ceiling. That's not what I said. I just need a few days to myself. Is that so terrible? I was 63 years old, retired after 31 years managing warehouse operations for a distribution company outside Charlotte. Diane and I had been married 38 years. We had survived raising 2 children, burying both our fathers within the same year, a cancer scare when she was 44, and the kind of financial strain that comes from living middle class in America for 4 decades. We had survived all of it. Or I thought we had. I should have said no. Should have planted my feet on the kitchen tile and told her that whatever was wrong, we would face it together, in this house, like we always had. But I didn't, because for the past several months, something had been shifting between us. Something I couldn't name. A distance. She'd started volunteering 3 evenings a week at a literacy program downtown, which I encouraged. She deserved something beyond this house. Beyond me and my retirement routines. But then the volunteering became 4 nights. Then 5. She started locking her phone. Started taking calls in the garage. Started sleeping with her back to me. I told myself it was a phase. Told myself that 38 years of marriage entitled us to a few rough patches. Told myself I was being paranoid. So I packed a bag, kissed her on the forehead, and drove 3 hours east to Raleigh to see my daughter. That was a Thursday afternoon. By Friday at 2 in the morning, my entire life had collapsed. The phone woke me from a dead sleep. Roy Beckman, my next-door neighbor for 11 years. Retired postal worker. The kind of man who notices everything on the street. Frank. His voice sounded wrong. Too fast, too high. Frank, you need to call Diane right now or get back here. Roy, it's 2 in the morning. What's going on? There are police cars at your house. I count 4. And an ambulance. Something happened, Frank. Something bad. There's tape across your driveway. My daughter was asleep down the hall. Her 5-year-old was in the next room. I sat on the edge of the guest bed with my phone pressed to my ear and felt the floor drop out from under me. Is Diane there? Can you see her? I don't see anybody except officers. Her car's not in the driveway. Frank, what the hell is happening? I don't know. But some part of me, some buried, cowardly part, already suspected that whatever was happening had roots in all those locked phones and late nights and the word suffocating. I left a note for Claire. Had to go home. Emergency, we'll call you. I was on I-40 West by 220, doing 90 in a 65, and I didn't care. Mooresville, North Carolina, is a small city about 30 miles north of Charlotte. Quiet streets, lake nearby, the kind of place where people move to raise families or retire in peace. Diane and I had lived on Brantley Oak Lane for 16 years. I knew every house, every mailbox, every crack in the sidewalk. I did not recognize my street when I turned onto it. Blue and red lights strobed against the houses. A crime scene van was parked where I usually left my truck. Yellow tape stretched from my mailbox to the oak tree in the front yard and across the porch I had repainted last September. 2 officers stood at the perimeter. An ambulance sat in the driveway, doors open, lights on, but no urgency. Whatever had happened was already over. I pulled up behind a cruiser and got out. An officer intercepted me before I reached the tape. "Sir, you can't be here. I live here. This is my house. My name is Frank Hollis. Where is my wife?" The officer's expression changed the way a door closes. He reached for his radio. A woman in plain clothes approached from the porch. Late 40s, dark blazer, badge on her belt. "Mr. Hollis? I'm Detective Morales, Mooresville PD. I need you to come with me. There's a lot we need to talk about. Not until somebody tells me what happened in my house." She studied me for a long moment, the kind of look that measures whether someone is lying or terrified. I was terrified. "Mr. Hollis, there's been a death inside your residence. We're trying to piece together what happened. I need to ask you some questions." A death. The word didn't make sense. Diane and I lived alone. The kids were grown. Who could possibly be dead in my house? Where is Diane? Where is my wife? "We're working on locating her, Mr. Hollis. Her vehicle is not here. Now please, come with me." They took me to the station, a small interview room with a metal table and the smell of burnt coffee. I sat there for an hour before Detective Morales came in with a folder and a cup of water I didn't touch. She asked me everything. Where I'd been, why I'd left, when I last spoke to Diane, whether we'd argued, whether I owned weapons, whether I had enemies, whether Diane had enemies. I answered everything honestly. I had nothing to hide. I was a 63-year-old retired warehouse manager who had driven to Raleigh to see his daughter. That was it. That was all I knew. Then she opened the folder. "Mr. Hollis, I'm going to show you some photographs. I need you to stay calm and tell me if you recognize what you see." The first photo was my living room. The recliner where I watched football was overturned. The coffee table was shattered. The rug Diane and I had bought in Asheville on our 30th anniversary was soaked dark with blood. The second photo was a man, mid-50s, gray at the temples, wearing a blue dress shirt now stained almost black. He was lying face up on my living room floor with his eyes open and a kitchen knife, my kitchen knife, the one from the wooden block Diane kept next to the stove, buried in his chest. I had never seen him before. "Do you know this man?" "No." "I have no idea who he is. His name is Keith Ballard, 56 years old, financial advisor, offices in Huntersville." I shook my head. The name meant nothing. "Mr. Hollis, Keith Ballard was found dead in your home at approximately 11:15 last night. Your wife is currently unaccounted for. Her phone is off. Her car is not at the residence. Can you think of any reason this man would be inside your house?" "No." None. But even as I said it, pieces were clicking together in the worst possible way. The locked phone, the late nights, the distance, suffocating. She hadn't needed space from the house. She had needed me gone. "I want a lawyer," I said. That was the smartest thing I did that entire year. My attorney was a man named Dale Riggins, old friend from my Rotary days. Semi-retired himself, but still sharp. He sat with me through 2 more rounds of questioning, made sure I was treated properly, and then drove me to a hotel because my house was still a crime scene and I had nowhere else to go. Over the next 5 days, the investigation filled in every detail I had been too blind to see. Keith Ballard, 56, divorced twice, financial advisor who specialized in retirement planning for older clients. He had met my wife 14 months earlier at a planning seminar hosted by the local library. Diane had gone alone. I was home watching a Panthers game. That was the night it started. 14 months. My wife had been seeing another man for 14 months while I sat in my recliner and noticed nothing. Or noticed everything and called it nothing. Keith's phone records showed over 2,000 texts with Diane. His apartment had a drawer with her things in it. Clothes, a toothbrush, a bottle of the perfume I had bought her for Christmas without knowing she was wearing it for someone else. The affair was beyond question, but the killing was complicated. My wife turned herself in 6 days after the murder. She walked into the Mooresville police station with a lawyer she had found somewhere, sat down, and told her version. She said she had been trying to end the relationship for 2 months. Keith wouldn't accept it. He had become controlling, jealous, threatening. He told her if she ended things, he would tell me everything. Send me the texts, the photos, ruin her. She was terrified. Not of me finding out, she claimed, but of what Keith might do. She sent me to Raleigh so she could meet Keith at the house and end it face to face, on her terms, in a place where she felt safe. When she told him it was over, he lost control, grabbed her, threw her against the wall, put his hands around her throat. She broke free, ran to the kitchen, grabbed the knife. He came after her. She swung. Self-defense. That was her story. She killed a man in self-defense, then panicked and ran because she didn't think anyone would believe the woman who'd been cheating. The trial started 4 months later. I attended every day. Sat in the 3rd row behind the prosecution because I didn't know where else to sit. My son, Marcus, came when he could. He was 34, lived in Greensboro with his wife and their 4-year-old boy. He sat next to me and said almost nothing for 3 weeks straight. Claire didn't come. She couldn't. Said seeing her mother in that courtroom would break something inside her that was already cracked. I didn't push. The prosecution argued premeditation. Diane had sent Keith a text that afternoon. Come over tonight, Frank's in Raleigh. We need to settle this. The prosecution said settle meant something different from breakup. They pointed to a life insurance policy Keith had changed 2 months prior, naming Diane as a beneficiary. They argued she knew about the policy, though that was never proven. The defense showed photos of bruises on Diane's neck and arms. They brought in Keith's second ex-wife, who testified he had been physically abusive during their marriage. They painted a picture of a woman trapped between a loveless routine and a dangerous man who made a desperate choice to survive. Loveless routine. That phrase hit me harder than anything the prosecution said. Is that what I had been? A routine? The jury deliberated for 3 days. Manslaughter. Not murder. Not self-defense. The middle ground where the truth usually lives. The judge gave her 10 years. Eligible for parole after 6. Diane looked at me once as they let her out. Just once. I don't know what she expected to see. Rage, maybe. Grief. What she saw was a 63-year-old man who had just learned that the last 4 decades of his life were not what he thought they were. I don't think there's a word for that expression. The divorce was final within a year. She didn't contest anything. I kept the house, the savings, the life we'd built. All of it was mine now, and none of it felt like anything. I tried living in the house. Lasted 2 months. Every time I walked through the living room, I saw the stain on the floor even after professionals cleaned it. Saw the spot where a man had died. A man my wife had been sleeping with. In the house I had mortgaged and maintained and painted and repaired for 16 years. The porch light I fixed because she said it flickered. I sold it. Took a loss. Moved into a smaller place in Davidson, closer to the lake. Simpler, quieter, emptier. Marcus handled it by going quiet. He called once a week, always on Sunday, always brief. He didn't mention his mother, didn't ask about the case, talked about his son, about work, about the Panthers. Surface-level conversations holding back an ocean of things we weren't ready to say. Claire handled it by getting angry. Not at her mother, which I expected. At me. How did you not know? She demanded during a phone call 6 months after the sentencing. 14 months, Dad. 14 months. Uh-huh. How do you live with someone for 38 years and not see that they're living a double life? I don't have an answer for that, Claire. Because you never paid attention. You came home, you sat in your chair, you watched TV, you went to bed. That was your marriage. That was your whole life. She was drowning, and you didn't even notice. She was having an affair, Claire. She wasn't drowning. she was choosing. Both can be true, Dad. Both things can be true at the same time. She was right. I hated that she was right. I spent the next year in therapy. First time in my life. 64 years old, sitting in a chair telling a woman half my age about my feelings. It felt ridiculous. It also saved me. The therapist helped me see what I hadn't wanted to see, that my marriage hadn't suddenly broken that night. It had been breaking for years, quietly, in the spaces between conversations we never had, in the questions I never asked because I was afraid of the answers. I had been a provider, a fixer, a steady hand. But I hadn't been present. Hadn't been curious about who Diane was becoming as we aged, what she needed, what she feared. I had assumed that 38 years of showing up was enough. It wasn't. That doesn't excuse what she did. Nothing excuses the affair, the lies, the violence, the year of deception, but understanding my part in the erosion helped me stop drowning in anger and start swimming toward something resembling peace. 3 years have passed. I'm 66 now. Marcus is 37. He and his wife just had their second child, a girl. His boy is 7 and plays t-ball with the kind of uncoordinated enthusiasm that makes me laugh until my chest hurts. Marcus calls twice a week now, and the conversations are longer. Last month, he told me he'd been seeing a therapist too. Started after the trial, but didn't tell anyone until now. I didn't want to turn out like you and Mom, he said. Not the crime part. The silence part. I didn't want to wake up one day and realize I'd been sleepwalking through my own marriage. That stung, but it also told me my son was going to be okay. Better than okay. He was going to be the man I should have been. Claire is 34. She forgave me mostly. Still hasn't forgiven her mother. Says she may never. She came to visit last Thanksgiving, brought her daughter, let me cook a turkey that was too big for 3 adults and 1 5-year-old. We ate leftovers for a week. It was the happiest week I'd had in years. I received a letter from Diane about 18 months after the sentencing. No return address on the outside, but the postmark gave it away. Frank, she wrote, I know you probably won't read this. If you do, I need you to know some things. I'm sorry. For everything. For Keith, for the lies. For the years I spent pretending I was happy when I wasn't. For not telling you the truth when it might have mattered. For sending you away that night so I could clean up a mess I made instead of letting you help me. I want to tell you what really happened, the part I didn't say at trial. When I told Keith it was over, he didn't immediately become violent. He cried first, sat on our couch, your couch, and cried like a child. Told me he loved me, that he'd never felt this way about anyone. And for a moment, just a moment, I felt sorry for him. Then he got angry. Then he grabbed me. And then I did what I did. I don't know if it was self-defense or rage or panic or all three. I don't know if he would have killed me or just bruised me and left. I'll never know. I made a choice in less than a second and I'll spend the rest of my life with it. Tell Marcus and Claire I love them. Tell them this had nothing to do with who they are. Tell them their mother is broken, but she's trying to put herself back together. And Frank, for what it's worth, you were a good husband. Not perfect. Neither was I. But you were good. I just couldn't see it anymore. That was my failing, not yours. Diane. I read it twice. Then I put it in my desk drawer. I didn't look at it again for a year. When I did, I noticed something I'd missed the first time. A water stain on the bottom corner of the page. Could have been anything. I decided it was a tear. Maybe I needed it to be. Last spring, Marcus called me on a Tuesday, which was unusual. Dad, I went to see Mom. The words hit me like cold water. You did what? I went to the prison, took a day off work, drove down and visited her. I was quiet for a long time. Dad, you there? I'm here. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if I was actually going to go through with it until I was sitting in the parking lot. And then I was inside, and it was too late to change my mind. How was she? She looked small. Old. She's lost a lot of weight. Her hair is completely gray now. I tried to picture it. The woman I'd married at 25, dark-haired and full of life, now gray and thin in an orange jumpsuit. I couldn't quite get the image to form. What did she say? She said she was sorry. She said it about 40 times. And then she asked about the kids, about Claire, about Emmett's T-ball. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That you're okay? That you're living in Davidson? That you go fishing on the lake every Saturday morning? I don't go every Saturday. I know, but it sounded nice. I wanted to give her something that sounded nice. I didn't know what to say to that. My son, at 37, had more emotional intelligence than I'd had at any age. Are you angry? He asked. At you? No. At her? I don't know anymore. I used to be. Now it's more like a bruise that still aches when you press on it but doesn't keep you up at night. That's pretty poetic for a warehouse guy, Dad. I've been in therapy. He laughed. It was the first time we'd laughed together about any of this. It felt like a door opening. Claire found out Marcus went. Did you know about this? No. He had no right. After what she did to this family, he just walks in there and acts like everything's fine? I don't think that's what he did, Claire. She abandoned us, Dad. She threw away 38 years for some financial advisor with a nice suit. She killed a man in our living room. And now Marcus is visiting her like she's just some sick relative in a hospital? She's his mother, Claire. She lost the right to that title. No, she didn't. She lost a lot of things, but not that. You don't have to visit her. You don't have to forgive her. But you don't get to decide that for your brother. Claire was quiet. Then she hung up. She called back 3 days later to apologize. We didn't talk about Diane. We talked about her daughter starting kindergarten in the fall. Diane is up for parole this September. 6 years served. The notification arrived by mail 2 months ago. They asked if I wanted to submit a victim impact statement. I spent 3 weeks deciding. I wrote it last Saturday. Sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a legal pad and tried to put 40 years of love and betrayal and grief into words that a parole board would hear. My name is Frank Hollis. I was married to Diane Hollis for 38 years. We raised 2 children together. We built a life that, from the outside, looked exactly like the kind of life you're supposed to want. On a Thursday evening in March of 2022, my wife asked me to leave our home for a few days. I didn't know she was sending me away so she could meet the man she had been seeing for over a year. I didn't know that man would die that night on our living room floor. I didn't know my wife would disappear for 6 days and then confess to killing him. The years since have been the hardest of my life. I was 63 when it happened. Old enough that starting over felt impossible. Old enough to wonder if the decades I'd already spent were wasted on a lie. They weren't. I know that now. The marriage was real, even if it was flawed. The family we built was real. The love, complicated and imperfect as it was real. What Diane did doesn't erase what we had, it just makes it harder to hold. I'm not here to argue for or against her release. I'm here to say that my children need a chance to heal, and healing requires access to the truth. Whether that truth comes from a woman behind bars or a woman on parole, I leave to you. Whatever you decide, I hope it leads to peace for everyone involved. We've all served time for what happened that night. Some of us just did it without walls. Frank Hollis. I don't know if they'll let her out. Part of me hopes they will, because I know what it would mean to Marcus and eventually maybe to Claire. Part of me is terrified, because seeing her again, in the real world, in daylight, will make everything I've spent 3 years processing feel raw again. But I've learned something in these 3 years. You don't get to choose which feelings show up. You only get to choose whether you sit with them or run. I'm done running. I did enough of that when I was married. Last Sunday, I drove to Greensboro for Emmett's T-ball game. Marcus was coaching. His wife was in the bleachers with the baby. Claire had driven up from Raleigh with her daughter, the whole family, -1. Emmett struck out twice, caught 1 ball that hit him in the stomach, and spent most of the outfield picking dandelions. His team lost 11-3. He was ecstatic. After the game, we went to a barbecue place Marcus swore was the best in Guilford County. The kids made a mess. The baby cried. Claire and Marcus argued about whether vinegar-based or tomato-based sauce was superior, a debate that has raged in North Carolina since before any of us were born. At one point, I looked around the table. My son, my daughter, my grandchildren. All of us scarred. All of us still here. Claire caught me looking. "What?" she said. "Nothing. Just glad to be here." She rolled her eyes. "Don't get sentimental, Dad. You'll make me cry, and I just did my mascara." Marcus reached across the table and squeezed my shoulder. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. "We are not the family I planned. We are missing a piece that may never fit back in. But we are a family. Broken and rebuilt, cracked in places that will never fully smooth over, but standing. Still standing. If you're watching this and something here feels familiar, here's what I want you to tell you. Pay attention. Not just to the big things, the fights, the lies, the obvious signs. Pay attention to the silence, the distance that grows so slowly you don't notice until you're strangers sharing a bed. The conversations you don't have because you're afraid of what they might reveal. I was married for 38 years, and I missed it. I missed the moment my wife stopped being happy. Missed the moment she started looking for happiness somewhere else. I was right there, in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, and I missed it because I confused presence with connection. Don't make that mistake. Talk to your spouse. Ask the hard questions. Listen to the answers, even when they hurt. And if someone you love asks you to leave, don't just pack a bag and go. Stand your ground, demand the truth. Fight for the marriage or end it honestly, but don't just walk away and pretend everything's fine. I walked away, and by the time I came back, there was crime scene tape on my front door and a stranger dead on my floor and a wife I never really knew disappearing into the night. You deserve better than that. We all do. Marcus texted me this morning. Just a photo. Emmett at the breakfast table, cereal in his hair, grinning like the world was made of sunshine. No caption, no context. Just his grandson being alive and happy and blissfully unaware of anything that happened before he was born. I saved the photo, set it as my phone background, stared at it for a while. Then I poured a cup of coffee, sat on my porch in Davidson, North Carolina, and watched the sun come up over the lake. 66 years old. Alone in a house that's too quiet. A life I never planned and wouldn't have chosen. But the coffee was good. The sunrise was good. And somewhere in Greensboro, my grandson had cereal in his hair. That's enough. Some mornings, that's everything. Thanks for listening. I don't know if my story helps anyone. There are no heroes in it, no villains, just people who made choices and lived with what came after. But maybe that's the point. Life doesn't come with a script. It comes with consequences. And the only thing you get to control is what you do next. If you're going through something hard right now, a betrayal, a loss, a moment where everything you believed turns out to be wrong, know this. You will survive it. It won't be fast. It won't be clean. But one morning you'll wake up and the weight will be lighter. Not gone, just lighter. And you'll drink your coffee and watch the sunrise and realize that lighter is enough. One day at a time. One choice at a time. That's all any of us get.